Good evening, Barberton. Thank you for having the U.S. Census Bureau here at Barberton High School. My name is Ken Camino. I am with the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm a partnership specialist focusing in Summit County. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to go over why we are doing the census. I do the educational and awareness piece throughout Summit County. And for the 2020 census, it's mandated by the U.S. Constitution. It's in Article 1, Section 2. It's what's used for the apportionment of seats in U.S. House of Representatives. But more importantly, that it's used to distribute at least $675 billion each year to local state governments. In addition to that, so the census data is what's used to allocate and distribute that money each year. Next slide, please. So my purpose here tonight, is to let everybody know that the census is safe, it's important, and that it's that we need to take part in the census. It's our goal is simple: it's to count everyone once in the right place at the right time. This year, for this census, it's the first one ever that's going to be available to take online. So in the middle of March, people will be getting an invitation card in the mail, and that's when people can take the census online. The card will have a phone number and also a web address. So once you get that, please, as soon as you can, take the census online or by phone. It takes no more than 10 minutes, and it's definitely very easy to take. Next slide, please. It's easy because it's available also in 12 other languages besides English. So those who are non-English speakers, the form itself is available in these languages: Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Vietnamese, French. Additional to the 12 non-English language are also another 59 non-English languages that you can use as a guide. So the other 59 languages, it's not the form itself, but they just answer some frequently asked questions about the census. Additionally, the census is also the language guide is also available in American Sign Language and also in Braille and large print. Next slide, please. The census is safe because your data is confidential. The same constitution that says we have to have the census every 10 years, the decennial census, also guarantees the protection of that data. We cannot divulge any or share any information with agencies or departments outside of the U.S. Census. So we do not share any of individual data with law enforcement, Homeland Security, Immigration, IRS. So we do not share your information outside of the census. All the information that we collect, we keep, and we have 2 oaths of office that we take, the first oath of service and the second oath of confidentiality for the rest of our lives. So that's another protection of your data. So when a census worker or enumerator comes to your house and you tell them the information, we cannot, or that census worker cannot share your information with anyone outside of the census. Additionally, we take great precaution in cybersecurity. So we have the top-notch cybersecurity when you take your census online. It's top. We cannot share that information as well, and it's safeguarded. Lastly, we will never ask for social security numbers. money or donations, anything on behalf of a political party, or any bank or credit card information. So that's also one of the key critical information that we're trying to get out to the communities, is that if any of these information, your personal information that I mentioned, is asked from you and they're saying they're from the census, that's a potential red flag and should be reported to authorities. So that's one of the key messages we're trying to get out to the communities. Next slide, please. I kind of briefly mentioned this, our timeline. As I mentioned, in the middle of March is when each address in the United States is going to get a invitation card to take the census online or by mail. I'm sorry, by phone. And subsequently, if we do not hear from that resident or from that address, if we don't get the response, there's going to be reminder mailings that will go out. And by the fourth mailing, if we still have not heard from the response from the address, then that fourth mailing will have a actual paper form. So by the around beginning of April, people will have the opportunity to respond to the census in 3 ways: by online, by phone, or by regular mail. And that's on or around Census Day, as you see here on April 1st, 2020. That's in the period of self-response all the way through July 2020. That's when July is, at the end of July, actually is when the online response kind of cuts off, period ends. But you can still respond to the census by phone or by mail. Additionally, if we do not hear from you by that fourth mailing, when you get the actual paper form, it's when we do a non-response follow-up. That's when we send the actual census workers, census field workers, or enumerators out to each address who have not responded by mail, by phone, or online forms. So that takes place, like as you see here, around April. So those census workers will go to your house or home and knock on your door and ask you to respond to the census, either right there with that census worker, or send in the form, or call on the phone, or respond online. Next slide, please. This just shows quickly the focus that we have in and around Summit County. As you can see here on the right side in the map, the darker areas, it's what's critical for us to look at and to focus on, because the darker shade, the blue, it's where we have a significant low response score that we believe for 2020, and that's based on previous census data from 2010 census and other data, for example, the American Community Survey that you see here on the left side. So Barberton is on the bottom here, bottom left kind of corner in the map, and it's about 30% that we believe are not going to respond to the census. So what that kind of means is that, for example, in a zip code or in a tract, let's say just a roundabout number, 5,000 people do not that we counted in that particular tract, but in actuality there's 8,000 people, so 3,000 people did not respond to the census. What that means is that, for example, the allocation of the funding, the money, is only allocated for 5,000 instead of 8,000. So it's basically underfunded. So people might lose services or programs that is critical to them. So the census is vital because it's what's used for programs, for example, like school lunches, building of roads, schools, other infrastructure programs such as food programs and things like that. So it's vital that everybody gets counted in the right place at the right time. Along with that, we're also focusing on counting hard-to-count populations. As I mentioned, based on our research and previous censuses, those hard-to-count populations include children under the age of 5. People don't think to count children under the age of 5, so if you have children, make sure you count them, especially newborns. Also, non-English speakers or those who are new to the country are also our hard-to-count populations, so we need to make sure that they get counted in any way. That's why we have 12 non-English languages and another 59 languages that are guides. So we need to make sure we inform them. Another hard-to-count population are in low-income neighborhoods or families. Additionally, those who need additional assistance to take the census. So those who might have physical or mental disabilities or handicap that needs additional help. So part of the reason why I'm going through all the communities, working with elected officials and schools and local organizations is that to make sure we count all those, get the information to those hard-to-count populations so that they are counted. So if you are working with any of those hard-to-count populations, please get in touch with us, with me, through the Census Bureau or my contact here in Summit County. Next slide, please. This is an example of one of our initiatives that we're undertaking. It's called the Statistics in Schools program. So the Statistics in Schools, it's a resource for classrooms. It's a free resource for classrooms that has cross-curricular activities. It was designed by teachers, for teachers, from grades K through 12. It has classroom activities for history, English, sociology, geography, math. So it uses census data information to introduce census facts and just things about our country and kind of intermingling that with their classroom activities. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have those census workers or enumerators who have to go out to those who have not responded to the census to try to get their information or collect their data in person, or remind them to take the census online by phone or by mail. So those census workers, the enumerators, we are hiring for in Summit County. There's about 4,000 jobs available for Summit County, but it pays $19.50 now. It was $16 back in December, but it's just been increased. So, which is great news. It's paid training, flexible hours. You can work as little as 5 hours, to as much as 40 hours a week. It's a temporary government position, so there is a background check that needs to take place, and it's free, so that can take at least a week to a month, or a couple of months, depending on your background. We do accept applications from all types of backgrounds, even with if there's a criminal history or record. It just depends on the recency and type of offense it was. And that's something that's adjudicated by our security office. It's paid reimbursement for mileage reimbursement, and also, as I mentioned, paid training. You have to be 18 years old to work and a U.S. citizen, at least 18 years old. But you could be 17 years old when you apply. But as long as you're 18, by the time you start work or get sworn in, you're fine. So it would be a great job for example, for seniors, senior high school students, and definitely great for retirees and things like that, or anyone who needs a flexible part-time job. So the deadline for applying is actually in April, end of April. It was just extended from the end of March. So the deadline to apply is end of April. You apply through the website 2020census.gov/jobs. It's the only way that you can apply for these positions. So please apply as as soon as you can. It's a great opportunity. Next slide, please. And I already mentioned that application, it takes no more than 10 minutes, around 10 minutes to complete the application. You can even do the application on your smartphone. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide. So as I mentioned, all of the census, it's vital that everybody take part in the census. It's part of the Constitution. Your data is guaranteed. The protection of your data is guaranteed by the law, by the Constitution. Any type of support that you can do for the census would be great, and that would, could include putting the information out on your social media network or on newsletters and websites. Also, you can get in touch with me. There's opportunities to talk to any of your organizations or organizations that you work with that I mentioned who work with hard-to-count populations. I'm more than available to go to community meetings or any type of event or even recruiting event that I can work with our recruiting specialists to be there. And I believe that's it. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows. Next slide, please. Sorry. This is my contact information. Please get in touch with me if you need further information or you need have any events, like I mentioned, or anything like that. I can't reiterate enough how important it is to take part in the census. It's safe, it's important, it's easy. And lastly, we need to count everybody once in the right place. So thank you very much.